The review of the governorship elections in Edo State. Joining us to look at that and to answer questions that you've posed before the umpire is the Chief Press Secretary to the Independent National Electoral Commission Chairman, Mr. Kayode Idowu. Good to have you join us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Well, for some, I don't know, perhaps can we say you should also rate yourselves on this? Let's start with the poll question.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Because the poll question has been up and people have been voting. And, some have said fantastic, while, definitely some have decided to use even words not part of the poll, saying that, it's a little bit above average or below average. If you were to score INEC in your last assignment in Edo State, how do you rate INEC?
Well, the jury is out there, and incidentally, you can't be a judge in your own case. So it will not be for me to rate INEC, as you say. But I like to say that for INEC, what is important is you look at what has happened, you look at how you have fared, look at the lessons that can be learned and factored into developing the process. You will notice, I hope, that it has been an incremental progression towards perfection of the system. And for INEC, what to do is that, okay, we did it this way. There were lessons to be learned. How can we factor these lessons in to improve the next stage? And that's what's important.
Are you jittery? I mean, you've said that the jury is out there. Are you jittery of what the jury might actually say or what it will be?
Why should we be? Because, like I said, the issue for INEC is the process. Not necessarily, not only, the perception is important, no doubt about it. The perception is important, but in the long run, the process will shape the perfection. And so, even if for whatever reasons there are misconceptions at certain stages, like my chairman has repeatedly said, our work will speak for us and justify us.
When you talk about some progression, which you just talked about, it brings to mind the question, how many elections will INEC conduct before it gets it right? Because we've seen some couple of staggered elections, and we believe that should have been the experiment for INEC to use, so that we must have got into that stage where we will say, we are already there. But with Edo elections and with your statement saying there's some kind of gradual progression, people want to know how many more are we likely to conduct before we say we're there?
Yeah, America has been at conducting elections for 200 years and more, and they're still fine-tuning. And so perfect elections is not something you hit like the bull's eye in a day. It is you continue to perfect the system, and the test is to ask, was the election better than the previous elections? And like I said, the jury is there. I mean, you could assess that yourself. Was the election better than the one before it? If it was, the purpose is served.
Well, anyway, let's look at more specifics from that particular election. For some, so many ironies. You live in a house, and the next door, you're supposed to take food to the next door and to the man in another state. But the man in the next door, he can't even get the food, and you take the food to so many distance apart. Now, specifically, Edo State, INEC's office is in Benin City, and in some places in that state capital didn't get INEC materials in good time. But in faraway Edo North, Auchi, and some other places, the materials were already there. And people say it was an attempt by INEC to really disenfranchise some of those electorates in those areas.
Yes, a legitimate question. And the inference is unfortunate. You see, the truth of the matter is that what happened with Oredo was purely an last-minute administrative and logistical itch. Now, you see, scholars have said elections are the most complex and elaborate operation that you can execute outside war. And what you do when you prepare for elections is to concentrate on the process, on fine-tuning and perfecting the process. Yeah, but it does happen. It's a fact of life that sometimes, even when you in principle, you have perfected the process as much as you are. Suddenly, a chink develops in your armor. And when that chink develops, the issue is to see how you can manage that to make sure you still deliver, the elections credibly. And that happened in Edo. I doubt that anybody argues that the elections in Edo were credible. I doubt that anybody argues against that.
What chink could have come up in INEC's armor?
Yeah, like I said, last-minute administrative and operational issues. You see, like I said, it's a complex operation. I have had all manners of allegations and insinuations. People said, they've even gone to the point of demonizing people. It's unfortunate. Sometimes you begin to think whether when you work in INEC, are you entitled to your integrity at all? It's really unnecessary. The truth of the matter, what happened in Edo, is that it was purely last-minute administrative hitches.
You're not willing to shed a little more light on what could have been? Was it that there were no
lack of vehicles? Like I said, it's administrative, and when it's administrative, there are things that you look at and you address them internally. And of course, you also know that INEC, elections are not operations that INEC alone conducts. It conducts it in concert with other stakeholders and agencies. And when things happen, you don't begin to say, okay, I point at this person. No. The buck stops on your table. And so those things happen. It's unfortunate they happened, but the truth of the matter is that they didn't affect the credibility of the elections. And INEC, there are things that INEC learned another lesson and will be factored into future preparations.
Another very sore point that came up for a host of people was the voters register. We even saw that it almost caused a protest. In fact, there was a protest in one of the polling stations, and a police officer, a very senior police officer, had to come in. DIG Mavala Weibo had to come in and help quell the protest. At that particular point in time, there were also, protests here and there, or let me say pockets of complaint here and there as to people's names not being on the voters register, or even fake voters register. Were those part of the administrative lapses that came up?
Yeah, good question. Again, it's unfortunate that you have those things happening, but let me also point out that many weeks before the elections, INEC gave the copy of the register to all the participating political parties. The reason for doing that is for you to go and check and also liaise with your constituents to say, look, here is the register. Do we have issues with the register? Now, the register was given. Copies of the register were given to all the parties. My question is, what was done with that? With their copy of the register. Another issue is that INEC wanted to do a CVR, the continuous voter registration, but they said no because there were suspicions. The environment in Edo was so acrimonious. Was uncommonly acrimonious and suspicious. They rejected the continuous voter registration, and the purpose of the continuous voter registration was one, to enlist those who became 18, but to also clean up the existing register. But they said they didn't want it. A professor in Cambridge says sometimes you need to distinguish between what is expedient to do in the short run and what is important to do in the long run. Now, they rejected the CVR, and I remember the chairman at that meeting, the March 18 meeting, told them, the May 18 meeting, said, well, this has implications. Because you are just not comfortable with our doing this thing, and we don't want this to distract from.
When did INEC say they wanted to do the CVR?
No, we were to start the CVR some weeks before the elections, as the law provides for. But the parties said they didn't want it, and INEC on May 18 announced to them that, well, since this seems to be distracting from the run-up to the election, then let's suspend it so that we can do it at a time. That because the issue then was that they were saying that many parties were alleging, even the parties that are crying out loudest now. We are saying that you want to do, in doing this CVR, we learned that some INEC staff are complicit in wanting to assist another party to import names into the register, which was not the issue. And because there were so many allegations that went on, and it was so loud.
But what exactly is the process? I mean, is it the process for INEC to give voters register to the parties, or to paste this register, the names of the voters, on at their polling stations so they can verify and send their complaints to INEC's office before the elections?
It's not INEC's business to paste the register at the polling stations. INEC staff will come on election day, bring the register to the polling station, and people will come to the polling station with their voters card, and their names will be checked out.
No, but I mean, we remember that during the last elections in 2011, after the registration, there was also a process whereby people had to go to verify that their names truly were on the voters register at their polling stations.
You see, there are two stages. Now, when you display the register for claims and objections, that is when you did a registration. We did not get to the point of doing a CVR in Edo State. The register that we are displaying, we displayed them following the January-February 2011 registration.
So
we displayed those registers.
What you're saying is that there must be a registration for INEC to be able to display
for claims and objections.
But in this particular case, where it hadn't conducted elections in a while in the state, I mean, the last time it did was for the 2011 governorship. Was it not only fair and proper that these names be there for the electors to check it out and make sure that nothing has changed?
The names are there. That's why we give the register
But some people had objections to it. Some people said that it was an entirely different register that came up. Some people who voted in the last elections could not vote in the elections this year, in the governorship elections this year.
Yeah, people say all manners of things, but that's why I asked the question. The register was given out long before the elections.
To who?
To the parties.
Is that the process?
Yes, is what the law requires.
Okay, but because
that's what the law requires.
Whatever happened to that situation or that process where, as you rightly said, you go there, you see all names being displayed, because in any case, all those who registered in the first place are not party members.
Yes.
So if we give the register to party people, and I'm not a member of any of the political party, and I have any kind of complaint, how do I know that my name is not in the register, since it's not been publicly displayed? I can't go to a party secretariat when I'm not a party member to say I want to look at the register.
Exactly. Yeah, but you see, we did a display for claims and objections following the January 2011 registration. Now, the issue of people saying they couldn't find their names, now that's a moot point, really. It's a moot point, you know. For different reasons, people say it's different things.
You don't believe that they truly couldn't find their names? Because let's also take the situation where they had fake voters register. You don't believe that actually happened, or did INEC not record any such situations?
Where they said they had fake register, the question I'd like to ask, did they vote in that polling unit? Did they eventually vote? And what register did they use to vote? Did
you record any incidences where maybe there was a mix-up? You know, people might term it fake, but assuming, did you record a situation where there was a mix-up? I mean, a different register for a polling station was taken to another polling station. Did you record any such situations?
Yeah, such things happen. That's what I'm saying. Such things, you see, it's an operation. It's a complex and elaborate operation. Such things could happen. But the error of the heart is not the error of the head. If such things happen, people have got to the point of saying that somebody tinkered with the register in order to disenfranchise people and stuff. Yes, when you conduct an election with hundreds of thousands of people, you possibly cannot vouchsafe for every single individual. But you can vouchsafe for the framework within which the elections are conducted. And that is the process that has been set in place, where infractions can be detected. You can't say that there won't be infractions. But when you set the process in place, infractions can be easily detected and addressed. And that is what the commission does. And so, For instance, people allege that, look, a lot of people went to to the voting stations without voter cards. And I remember repeatedly this issue came up at the stakeholders meeting that, look, let people come because they, for one reason or the other, they didn't have their voter cards. Somebody said they procured it. Somebody said, some people said maybe they lost it for one reason or the other. But the law says, Section 40 of the electoral says, you must come to the polling unit with your voter card.
You know,
no, I wanted us to look at sorry, Mark, but this voter card issue. Well, we'll come back to it. I wanted us to also look at the sudden change. INEC once had a practice where recs are posted to their geopolitical zones, but with the Edo election, it was quite different. Is it changing its tactics all of a sudden?
I don't get it. Posted to their geopolitical zones.
For instance, if you're from northeast or south, you posted to that geopolitical zone to any of the states in that particular region, and people had already said it gives room for some kind of fair understanding and knowledge of the culture, the tradition, and topography, especially when it comes to looking at some very, very difficult areas to penetrate.
Yeah, that's in deploying recs for states. Now, in Edo State, there was a rec. Oh, there's still a rec there. There's a rec in Edo State. And you also recall that the rec was actually assigned from another state because the tenure of the previous rec had expired. And the commission had to look for one of the best hands it could get to post to Edo because of the situation in Edo. But in the case of Edo, because of the acrimonious nature of the place and the build-up to the election, the commission decided, like never before, to make sure that each of the local governments had a commissioner to supervise what is going on, to invigilate. Now, they were not the ones operating they were not the ones carrying out what was going on there. The EOs were doing their job. But of course, the more invigilators you have in an exam, the less the chances of cheating. And so that was why this guy, it was just an ad hoc thing, to bring in 8 national commissioners and 10 recs to make sure that each local government had a commissioner just overseeing what is going on there, in addition to the rec in Benin. And that's one of the things that the commission put in place to make sure that infractions were prevented.
Because we're trying to see what kind of understanding the rec had about Edo State. For some, they never thought that in parts of Edo State we also have some riverine areas. We also have some hilly areas around the areas that they once called Kokuruku Hills in the Edo North region, and see how they can actually penetrate and send these materials there. And it brings to mind the Ologbo experience. You lost an ad hoc staff. The police also lost 2 professionals there. People have been asking, where are the boats meant for INEC in Edo State? Because we understand that most of the south regions have boats procured by INEC.
Yeah, it's true. INEC has boats in many of the states, Bayelsa, Delta, and all that. But it's a logistical nightmare.
Have they been sold?
Because no. This one that's what I'm saying.
We understand this was a rented boat.
Yeah, that's true.
And we wonder why INEC will rent a boat when the nation gave them huge sums of money to procure boats.
Yeah, there's no boat in Benin. There are boats in other states, but it's a logistical nightmare to load a boat onto a truck, haul it all the way to Benin, bring it down, take it to where you need it. Then after you finish the elections, you load it onto the truck again and you take it back. It's a logistical. It's cheaper to get a boat there and use.
Because we really cannot equate the life lost or lives lost with all of those hassles and stress.
Yeah, but nobody projected that lives would be lost.
But again, if INEC, because we know that INEC has lovely boats, new boats, brand new boats. What's better for you? Taking the boat you're very sure of that will take you to your destination with no hazards, no accident, instead of hiring a boat that you're not too sure of the condition.
Yeah. Like I said, nobody projected that lives would be lost.
Again.
So when these decisions are taken, you look at that point in time, what is most reasonable to do.
What about, sorry Mark, but what about, since we cannot take the boat and haul it on a truck, what about the one that we can hold, a life jacket? Didn't we provide life jackets for these officers?
Yeah, life jackets were provided for INEC officials. I mean, for staff. I can't say exactly what happened with the life jackets and all that in this particular instance. I can't say exactly, but certainly in riverine areas, there are life jackets for
Is Professor Jega looking into that? Have you set up any committee to investigate the true cause of that accident, or is it just within the police that you have to set up a commission to look at what exactly happened?
Following every election, there is a...
No, we're talking about this
that's what I'm
incident.
saying.
Because if we don't look at this, we're trying to, everyone has been with INEC on this, seeing how much of help they can give to INEC, because the next election is in Ondo State, and we have more riverine areas in Ondo than even in Edo, so that we can start telling ourselves we don't have to rent a boat, we don't have to make the mistake of going out there in the river without having life jackets for officers, and avoid a repeat of what happened in Edo.
Yeah, like I said, every election is an opportunity to learn lessons to factor into the next stage of the process. And I'm sure that, I mean, as we speak, the commission is looking closely at all the things that happened in Edo and see what lessons can be learned, and they will reflect in Ondo when the elections are rolled out there.
Does INEC have a health and safety policy?
Like HSE.
Yeah, the reason why I ask is, some people would say that even if in cases where you cannot get a boat, I mean, where you cannot bring your own boat, you would have a certain standard of boat that you would like to hire. And, there are certain standards that it must meet within your own requirements before that boat is eventually hired.
Yeah, it does.
You do have?
Yes.
And in this particular case, well, you're yet to conduct an investigation into it, but you cannot ascertain if truly those standards were met before the boats were hired.
I can't say that as I sit here now, but like I said, all those things have been looked into. But surely the commission will not go out to hire a rickety boat that you will know ab initio that will endanger the life of people. I mean, it's not done.
Oh, going back to the issue of the voters register now, some people have, people say that you cannot stop people from saying what they will say, but the commission has a duty to explain to people what exactly happened in some of these situations. Talking about fake voters register, does INEC have any inclination whatsoever to acknowledge that truly there could be fake voters register in existence?
You see, the issue of cloning INEC materials is a reality, and I will tell you why. Even at the stakeholders meeting, some of the parties brought forward cards, identity tags, and the commission, the chairman, acknowledged that these are clones. Now, incidentally, I read in the media later that people are saying that the chairman admitted that the whole place is awash with fake voter registers and all that. But the issue is that one of the parties came to the meeting and presented a register or a couple of voter cards and said, "Look, we saw this." Well, it's a different matter to ask, how did you get it? You never know. You never know how the person... But the issue that when the chairman looked at it, he said, this is true. These are not our original cards. And so anything can be... Because we are dealing with a lot of people. So any of these things happen. But like I said, the process is designed in a way to detect infractions. And the much that you can do is to make sure that when such infractions arise, you deal with them and you prevent them from affecting the whole system.
So, in the case of the fake voters register that were identified at polling units, what would you say happened?
I've not seen a copy of the register, so I can't say as I sit here that they were fake registers. But I'm saying that people have spoken about fake fake registers, they have spoken about fake voter cards, they have spoken about fake identity, INEC identity cards, and it's not INEC that does these things.
There were also situations...
people who do it to infringe the system, to infringe what INEC has in place.
There was also a situation whereby people refused to vote because their pictures were not with their names. Do you think that there could have been a problem there, or were they just being too picky? Could they have gone on with the voting process?
No, ideally the pictures should have been there. Ideally the picture should have been there. So if they had that situation, something happened in printing out the register, but ideally the picture should, even the addendum register, have pictures.
Well, INEC have gone on to conduct elections without pictures of those people.
No, the register that we use have pictures, because there is no way you will be able to verify that the holder of the card, the face that you see on the voter card, is the same face that is on the register, because that's a condition, that's a criterion for participating in the elections. You bring your voter card, it is confirmed that you are the whole.
So it must match the picture there.
Must match. So
what about track records? We still want to look at getting it right, so that that process, the way we are moving to a more perfect system, we can get there pretty early, perhaps maybe in the next elections in a couple of weeks in Ondo State. Do you also, does INEC also look into the electoral track records of recs before they're posted to execute or prosecute some of these elections?
Yeah, the recs are officials of the commission. So INEC has all the records of its officials with it, and they're well. You see, I think that it will not help to impugn or to selectively impugn officials. And some people have said each time they make complaints, the commission will say produce evidence. People make all manners of allegations against people, and you discover that these allegations, for whatever reasons, sometimes are not proven. And so when you begin to say, okay, the track record of one is different from the track record of the other, the one that you think has a bad track record, what proof have you got against him to say he has a bad track record? I know that under this commission, the commission led by Professor Jiga, we have not had a situation, because you will remember that when there was a case against a rec that was proven in court, the commission left I'm talking about Ekiti State. I mean, she was held to account, and she left the commission. I mean, she retired. So there is nobody who is in the system against whom something has been proven. Otherwise, the person will not be in the system.
In other words, for those complaining about some, as you say, that you should bring it on, for those who also complain that some people who are already in INEC that will oversee elections were card-carrying members of political parties before they got that kind of a job. Is INEC likely to really assuage the fears of the people and say, don't worry, we'll ease them out just for you to be rest assured that we'll do a perfect and independent job?
I can assure you that if there was a card-carrying member before being appointed as an official of INEC, every such person has severed alliance, such previous alliances. Because in INEC, the code is that you do your job as an impartial
how possible is that? You know, you were a member of an organization, a member of any body. How possible is it that even when you leave that body, especially when that body has been nice to you and good to you, you won't be, in a way, try to be nice to that same organization?
It has to be possible because the system in place will not allow you to. I mean, will not allow you to do otherwise.
But we don't have a system already.
I'm saying we have a process in place that detects infractions.
What system do we have? We've seen people blatantly do things all in the face of the people. That is why people are saying, "Wait a minute."
You can give instances. I don't know of any. I mean, in this present INEC, I don't know of any.
You don't know of any who was a party member before joining INEC?
No, I'm saying if there was a party member before joining INEC, I can confidently say that right now, all those alliances have been severed. If there was, all those alliances, because everybody in INEC is doing the job impartially as a neutral umpire and providing level playing field for all the participants.
What are we likely to see in Ondo State? Is INEC ready, and how ready is INEC for Ondo elections?
Yeah, an indication that we are ready. The notice of election has already been published the day before yesterday, and that's a requirement. And we are
beyond notices, so that we don't get to see that in Akure materials will not be in Akure, but in Ikare, Akoko, or some other places you get to see materials there. But in the metropolis, materials are not there, so that we don't have a repeat of what happened in Edo State.
Yeah, that's why I said what happened in Edo State was a last-minute administrative itch, which was unforeseen and which will be guided against in future elections. It was a last minute, like I said, that's all the chink develops in your armor. You've perfected everything, but at the last minute, something just occurs, or a concert of factors come together, and they seem to, they affect that process. And those things have become lessons that have been learned and will be guided against in subsequent elections.
And I'm quite sure INEC is going to look into that, because it still doesn't make sense that someone will leave base and take materials to somewhere else when base is also part of the process.
Part of why that happens is that the
it's as if
procedure for
we're
deployment.
going to read news from China's headquarters here in Lagos, and we haven't even prepared the bulletin. We're taking another one to somewhere in Benin City, and all of a sudden we just realize that we cannot do the news here in Lagos, the headquarters. That is what transpired in Benin, and people are scared that Ondo State is another big election and big test for INEC.
Yeah, you see, that's why I said the mode of INEC's logistics operation is such that you begin to send out materials to the furthermost places first. And so when last minute things develop, they happen around the places that you are yet to deploy, because those other ones are gone.
Mr. Idowu, I want you to quickly reply to this. Some people say that INEC truly has no votes, and it's actually the prerogative of the state government to hire for them.
Absolutely not.
INEC does have votes.
Exactly.
And they have votes printed boldly with INEC on it.
INEC has votes. It has votes.
Where are they?
They are in the riverine states. You have them in Delta, you have them in Bayelsa. They are not sufficient. I'm not saying that we have sufficient number.
In total, how many votes does INEC have?
I can't give you a figure now.
You don't have an estimate?
I can't give you a figure. I don't want to.
But they're in the riverine areas.
Yes, they're all in the riverine.
For now, I'm sure Ondo has the boats ready.
I'm sure.
You're very sure?
I'm sure you will not have a repeat of the incidents that you have in Edo. I can give you that guarantee.